Hey y'all, it's Joe for here, the cranky old gay guy. And today we're gonna bring up a little subject called the electric wow, I sound drunk. The Electoral College and how it makes me cranky. Okay, long time ago in a land far away called the United States of America, consisted of 13 states. People got together and said, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna elect anybody? Some wanted this, some wanted that. They settled on something called the Electoral College. It was presented as a direct voting system, which would be a popular vote. You, as a citizen, vote for who you want to be the president. But there were a lot of objections, and because of this, they settled on an indirect way of voting where you vote for somebody, but instead you put all those votes on a single electorate, a member of the Electoral College, who then places the vote for this group of voters. It was simply a stopgap measure so they could get this thing through and get an election started. Unfortunately, the Electoral College is still around. I believe it was modified a few years after that, but it still sucks and it still gives states with smaller populations equal footing with states with larger populations. When I say that, I mean that Idaho has, let's say, 11 votes and a population of, I don't know. I don't know how many people are in Idaho. A million people? Okay, maybe. Spread out all over the place. And then you'll have like Indiana or Iowa, and they'll get 11 votes, and they might have a population of 2 or 3 million. Why? The votes are supposedly set by, and when I say electoral votes, that means the number of electorates that will be sent from that state to the National Convention to vote for the president. If your state has 40 representatives, like California, I think it's 40, then they're going to have 40 electorates in the Electoral College, who will then go to the convention and vote. While Idaho will have 11 if they only have 11 electoral votes. The problem being is that probably a bad example to say California because they have 40 votes. So let's go back and we'll pick Indiana or Iowa or whoever has the equal number of votes as Idaho. Even though one has a much larger population, why they have 11, same as Idaho, I don't know. The problem being is that now Idaho, who has, if you were to vote directly, they have 1 million votes. Indiana or Iowa, whoever the equal state is, has 2 million votes. Voters, but they have the same amount of electoral votes, which makes them equal. It's not direct representation like it should be. The people, when you vote for somebody, you should be able to vote for them. It should be the popular vote, majority rules. And as you've seen in previous elections, like, the one in 2016, the person who had the most votes didn't win. Why? Because of the electoral college. Let's take Idaho, for example. Um, they have one liberal area, it's right around Boise, which also has the largest population in the state. Okay? And then you have all these rural areas, districts in the state that have much smaller populations that are very, very conservative. So if each segment gets a vote, so those are five, let's say there's 5 segments. One's liberal, 4 conservative. The 4 vote for conservatives, the liberal state votes for progressive or a democratic blue person. So the red wins. So now all of the votes that were in that state now go to the red candidate. And I know this is really confusing because it's confusing to me. I understand how it's done at a government level, but it's still confusing at the state level for me because I can find nothing online to show me the breakdown within each state. I do know that through gerrymandering, which is changing voting districts, which is set by the state legislature, a conservative state will make sure that they arrange things so conservative candidates are more likely to win. And I believe they do the same thing with the Electoral College, because I don't think that it's based purely on the popular vote of each state. Because if it was, well, I'm confused. If someone can explain this to me, that would be great. But the problem being that why, if you have 40 million people in your state, why you have, and another state has 1 million people, why do they not get one vote and your state gets 40? Instead, they might have 10 or 15 votes, which is almost half of what you get. And if you have several states that have that, even though they have really small populations, the big state, they can overrule the big state because they all get together and gang up on the big state. But population-wise, the big state still has more people and more votes, direct votes of residents, right? So these small states have a smaller population, so they shouldn't be able to somehow gather all of these electoral college votes and win the presidency. It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. I understand that in the beginning it was done that way because they had no form of communication that was quick and easy, and someone in, I don't know, Boston wouldn't know who so and so in Virginia that's running for office is, and there'd be no way for them to get to know them. So instead, they will vote for an elector in their district in Boston, who would then travel to DC and meet with other electors from all the other states, and they would meet the candidates, and then they would make the decision for that state. So long time ago, that made sense. It doesn't make any sense anymore, and it needs to be changed because it makes me cranky. It's confusing, and it makes me cranky. It seems really unfair, which makes me cranky. And I would feel the same way even if I was in a minority position, because I believe that population wise, there are far more progressive people in this country than even like news outlets report. The problem is that they're centered in the coastal cities. And because of that, all the central states, which have much smaller populations, get to put all of their votes together, their electoral votes together, and come out on top, even though they have a smaller population as a whole than the coastal cities. It's, oh, it's so confusing and it makes me so cranky. Please, someone who is really up on this, could you please, in the comment section, explain how each state, how they determine how many representatives in Congress each state gets, and how each state, how their electorate, electorate, the person representing them in the Electoral College, how that person gets chosen, and how they are. I know that they're supposed to vote for what the majority of the people want, but I don't think legally they have to. And if they vote against what the people want, it's up to the state legislature to come after them, find them, put them in jail, etc. But if it's the people in power, the state legislature, like that they didn't vote for the popular candidate, instead voted for who the legislature wanted, then they're not going to do anything. And that changes the whole electoral balance, and then that person goes and uh, gets to vote the way they want to as opposed to how the people want to. It's all just so confusing to me. And I thought I knew what I was talking about when I started this video, but the more I think about it, the less I know. So if you're keen on this, if you're a Politico and you can explain this, briefly and concisely. Please do in the comments. I'm sure I'm not the only one watching this or here online that is confused and really wants to see the Electoral College thrown out and just go back to a popular vote, which is a direct voting system, meaning if candidate A gets all the votes, they win. If candidate B gets more than candidate A, they win. Forget this middleman nonsense because it's corrupt, totally corrupt. Okay, that's it. That was a confusing video, and I apologize, but I'm sitting here thinking about it, and it's not getting any clearer to me. I just know it's time for it to go because it makes me cranky. I know it makes you cranky. All right, today's shout out's going to go to, I guess it's going to go to, I know there's got to be a movement out there to overthrow and toss out the Electoral College. So I'm going to give it to that group. I will look it up and I will put it in the description of this video. And then if you want to check them out, that's great. Maybe they can explain it better than I can because I have a lot of trouble with it. Okay, today's video is brought to you by 35 Letters from a Mother to Her Son. Through a series of 35 letters, a mother sends her love to her absent son. Still wants him to be the way she wants him to be. He's gay. She doesn't like that. She doesn't want to accept that. She doesn't even bring it up until way deep into the letters. It's a touching story. There's a lot of historical stuff in it. You should read it. It's a good read. That's all I got. Till next time, I'm going to say bye-bye and have a wonderful Tuesday evening.